So welcome to my kitchen. For those of you who have never joined us before, today I am going to make what there are different names to it. So in the advertisement for the library, first of all, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So the advertisement called them pastelillos, and that's typically how we call them in Puerto Rico. Most people know them as empanadas. So there are a lot of different reasons why the names are different, different countries, different regions. Some people call empanadas if you bake them. Others say pastelillos or when you fry them. I typically call them empanadas or pastelillos. Doesn't matter. It's yumminess. It's like the original hot pocket, I call it. So as we're going along, feel free to stop me and ask a question, make a comment. There's just a few of us, so we're family. Let's just be interactive. I'm going to make 3 different types of empanadas, just so that if there are some vegetarians, you could try a different version. People who might like some seafood and others who don't eat beef might want. I'm going to make one that's shrimp. I'm going to make a beef empanada, and then I'm going to make a black bean and roasted butternut squash and corn empanada. So that way you have a couple of options. The base for the protein is usually the same. So I'm going to do 3 pots, and you'll see me make all of them. So we'll get to it. But before I do, I want to plug in for the environmental committee and the DPW. If you guys are not doing your food scrapping yet, please begin. I don't know if any of you guys know, but the food scrapping program started a year ago or so, and we are now picking up food scrapping curbside. So I don't know, does anybody here getting their food scraps picked up yet? Anybody doing the program?
We've been taking ours down, but we should totally sign up
Yes.
to help pick it up.
So all you have to do is contact DPW. And if you don't have the bin, it's $20 for the kit, and you can throw it in there. So just to start, I'm just, as I'm cooking, I'm bring this down because I'm going to start cutting up the veggies. As I'm using it, I just start dumping in here as I'm cooking, so that way I don't have to have another garbage can.
Thank
So
you.
the first thing for this, and Kaiti, I would ask if there are any questions or anything that you keep track and let me know, because I'm not watching that right now.
Yes, sure.
The other thing that I want to let you guys know is if you live in Tuckahoe, I am making 10 empanadas. If you live in Tuckahoe and you put your address in the chat bar, I will drop off some empanadas because I cannot eat all of this.
Oh my God.
So if you have a preference, I'll do it by first come, first serve, and as many as I make. I will drop them off and you can have some yummy empanadas. You could taste them before you make them. All right, so that usually I use peppers, any color peppers. You can have any bell peppers, red, yellow, orange, green. This is what I happen to have or buy. Onions you're gonna need, and you're gonna need some garlic, which I had already de-peeled. Let me just let you know, washing my hands so much, I tend to want to protect them. So I put a little bit of olive oil in my hands when I'm cooking sometimes.
Oh,
And then I put on some gloves,
okay.
and that way I'm moisturizing my hands while I'm cooking.
Oh,
Just a
that's
little
very
tip
good tip.
and trick that I use. Especially with all this, pandemic stuff, I'm always washing my hands, and so this helps to keep them nice and moisturized. So just a little trick. You don't have to do it, just a tip. All right, so I'm going to cut up some of the peppers. I'll do half and half because I want to also show you guys in the ingredient list, I also talked about sofrito. And I'll tell you a little bit about sofrito. We're going to make a little. We're going to make some sofrito, and I'll show you how we use that. So you want to dice these, turn them over, and then just because these are going to just cook down with the onions, peppers. Yeah. So I'll just do a few of the green. do half of the red. Really important to have sharp knives in your kitchen. For those of you who like to cook, you probably know that. I know I have talked to a few people who did not know what this was for in their knife block, and this is what I use to sharpen the knife. So if you look that up, important to have sharp knives because it just makes life so much easier when you're cooking. I also just bought some new knives that I like, Tuckahoe. So I'm working with some of those as well. So I just think cooking it's more fun if the tools that you have don't make life harder. So. And if you don't like peppers, some people don't, you don't have to use peppers. You can just do onions and garlic. But at the very least, you should have onions and garlic in this. I'll dice some onions. As for those of you who've joined my class before, I like to talk about the onion and how easy the onion shows us how to cut it. It gives you, has the little lines on there, so it really teaches you how to cut the onion. The lines are already there for you. So I'll just cut these across. I'm just hoping I don't start crying because I am the worst with onions. So they say that there are some tricks like putting a match between your teeth that you've lit and blown it off. Does anybody have any tricks for me for not getting my eyes watery? So far, so good. Any tricks, anybody?
I like the yellow onions. I feel like, I don't know if it's just luck, but I feel like sometimes they're less likely than the white.
So this one wasn't too bad. And I think it's because it's the Vidalia, the sweet onion. This is the Vidalia onion that I bought. Everything that I purchased here, I got either from Stop and Shop or what everyone calls the C-Town right next to the Stop and Shop. So it's very easy to get all of these ingredients. So I'll put those to the side because we're going to make some sofrito. I'll show you how to do that later. But the other thing you want is some garlic. Now I love garlic presses. I love to buy new gadgets. So this is my favorite garlic press that I got through Williams Sonoma. Actually, I think it was one of my housewarming gifts that one of my friends did. But I love to use this one to crush my garlic. Usually I'll do it right in the pan, but just so you could see, this is like my favorite little gadget. Just crush garlic, but I got a new little gadget that a friend of mine gave me that I'd like to share with you. It's also a garlic press, but it looks like this. Has anybody ever seen this kind? And so just crush down, and then you sort of go side to side. And there you have it. Garlic is pressed that way. So whatever you like to use. If you don't have any gadget like this, that's fine too, because you can just dice the garlic the good old fashioned way, as my mother would say. You don't need all of that stuff. We didn't have it when we were growing up, so why do you need it now? So I think one of the future meetings, one of the future classes, I'd like to bring my mom on to have her make a dish and share with you guys.
Omayra, there's another Omayra coming in.
So yeah, that's probably Grace Flowers.
Grace, okay.
Grace, are you there?
She's still connecting.
Okay, you can ask. That's another person that asked me to forward them the. So anyway, so I have a pretty good amount of garlic there. It's not. You're going to be using some sofrito later, so I'm going to show you that. So I want to come over here and show you. So the shrimp that I just made a little bit of shrimp. I seasoned it with my homemade adobo. So I don't know if you have adobo. If you can buy it, There's a lot of different brands, Goya, Badia. I make my own with garlic powder, granulated garlic, turmeric, salt, pepper, and I do add ground oregano. This one I didn't have enough space, so ground oregano is also important in Puerto Rican cooking. It gives it a specific flavor. And I do use onion powder as well. You can use salt and pepper. You can use seasonings that you prefer. This is very, it's very foolproof. It's easy. It's cook friendly. You don't have to be perfect in any of the ingredients. So that's the shrimp we're gonna make. I also roasted some butternut squash, which I diced, and some corn that I shook. And we're gonna make a black bean. So these black beans I use from the can. Typically, I will soak the beans and boil them myself, but you can use a can. I would just caution to use the not low sodium or no sodium can. I happen to use, let's see, my brand. So for this one, I use Wegmans brand. You can see it, and it's the organic with no artificial flavors, no salt. So you're really just adding whatever you want to it. Yep. Be right back. So I'm going to show you just some of the stuff that you want to have here. These are my sofrito that I freeze. And sofrito, if you guys saw the recipe, it's basically a very traditional seasoning that we use to cook in Puerto Rico. I cook them. I mean, I make the sofrito and I put it in ice cube trays. When they freeze, I just put them in the bag. So when I have them ready to cook, I just use them. And what it has is it's cilantro. So cilantro looks like this, similar to parsley, but it has a very distinct smell and a nice fragrance to it. So I use cilantro, garlic, onions, peppers, any peppers that I have. And there is a small pepper called ajís dulce, sweet pepper, but it's a really tiny pepper. And we use that to make our sofrito as well. So you put all those ingredients either in a food processor or in a blender. And I'm gonna actually make some while you guys are here so you could see it. And then you have your sofrito. So when you have to cook during the week, I say this while I'm talking to you, when you have to cook during the week, you can have that readily accessible, and it gives a lot of flavor to the food. You don't have to keep chopping and dicing peppers and onions every time you're gonna cook, because you could just dump one of those in. So I use it for everything, stews, soup. If I'm making spaghetti, we make something called Puerto Rican spaghetti because you use sofrito in it. And it's pretty quick and it gives food a lot of flavor and it's really good for you. So there was actually a study that I read. I don't know how credible it is, so don't quote me, but the study that I read talked about sofrito being a good ingredient to fight cancer. And so they followed certain people that use sofrito regularly in their cooking and said that they believe that they are anti-carcinogens in sofrito. So a little tidbit information. And then the third type I'm gonna make, which is pretty typical, is the beef. Now you can use ground chicken, you can use ground turkey, you can almost use anything to make empanadas because it's pretty friendly to use. I happen to be using ground sirloin, and I got it from the country market. So there you have that. So let's talk about how we do this. So the ingredients, now usually I will make my own dough, but like I said, I didn't have time, but it's very easy to just buy some dough. You can buy, there are a lot of different brands. Goya happens to not be my favorite brand, but it's good, still good. And they come with like 10 little discs, they call them in there. And they're basically all ready for you to make your empanadas, and I'll show you how to do that in a little while. You should have ready a lined pan, so that way when you are going to make your empanadas, you're going to line them up before you fry them. You want to have something ready for that. And then after they're finished frying, I usually keep like a cookie, what do they call it? A cookie wire rack. And I put it on top of something and I put some paper towels underneath so that it could drain and not be oily. You want them to be nice and crispy. Put that to the side. So let's get cooking. Bring us over to the kitchen, to the sink, the stove.
Can I ask you a question? You said Goya wasn't your favorite brands of empanada
Yeah.
discs. What's your favorite brands?
I'm trying to remember. I think it's Iberia, Iberi, but
And-
most of any of the other ones are really
And
good.
you can get it in a regular supermarket?
Yeah, most supermarkets have, like in the ethnic, quote,
Oh,
ethnic
okay.
section. Yeah, which makes me laugh
And are-
when they say ethnic section. 'Cause
Are they in
everything
the
is
freezer section or
the
just the
freezer, yeah,
Oh,
they're
okay.
frozen, so they're in the freezer section.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, so now here I have three pans. I'm going to try and do this all together. And I'm happy that I have a center burner in my kitchen. So we're going to, the first thing you want to do is put a little oil in the pan. I'm trying to do these all together, make it easier. So this was something that we typically, eat as an appetizer during, oh, I'm sorry, yeah. So you want to put a little bit of olive oil in each pan if you're making, depending on what you're making. So again, I'm making 3 different types. So we're doing them all together. So I'm going to put a little bit of, so let's do some onions there. Some peppers. And some of the garlic. Do the same thing here. And the garlic there. And then the same for here. So there you have it. So what I did earlier, I just roasted the butternut squash and the corn, and for the bean empanadas. The other thing is, it's good in your kitchen. So I just have my olive oil bottle is always nearby because I use that a lot. My utensils, I keep in a little utensil holder. You want to keep those things that you use often handy, so you're not trying to search for things as you're cooking.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a good technique for if you have to cook for a large family?
Well, so which technique?
When you're using all of your pans and everyone wants something different?
So I think so. It's like my mom can't cook more than one thing at once. She can't do it. So it depends on how skilled you are in the kitchen. If you're not used to, it's funny because you have to think about a lot of different things. So I know that beef is going to take me much longer to cook than shrimp. So in my head, as I'm talking to you guys, I'm thinking, okay, remember the beef goes in first. That's going to take long. You're having to calculate a lot of different things to make sure that nothing burns, that things cook at the same rate, that they're maybe done at the same time. So it is a good technique, especially if you're making, let's say, spaghetti, and somebody wants shrimp in it, someone wants beef, someone wants something else, or someone wants nothing, then this is a good thing to do because you could boil one pot of pasta.
Could you spell the sweet pepper and where you would buy it?
So those are a little more difficult to find. Usually I get those, like I'll have to go to New Rochelle or in the city where my mother lives in Spanish Harlem. And it's called ají. Kaiti, if you could put this in the chat bar, AJI. And then the second word is dulce, DULCE, ají dulce. Let me put that in the
Sweet,
chat.
yeah.
The second word, Omayra?
DULCE, dulce. And ají is pepper. Dulce means sweet. So sweet pepper. And when we take a little break, I'll actually go online and show you what it looks like. Okay.
The spelling you've got in the chat bar is incorrect.
AJI is the first word, and the second word is DULCE, ají dulce. All right, I'm gonna put this beef in. You just want to break that down. Did everybody get it? Ají dulce?
Did I spell it right? AJIBULD.
D is in David,
Oh, D.
UL,
Sorry.
okay. D is in David, ULCE. And just for a little Spanish lesson, dulce means sweet or candy. Pick that up a little bit. Get this meat cooking. Okay, so another thing that we use for to make empanadas, either tomato sauce or tomato paste. I use tomato paste, any tomato paste, but I try to find tomato paste that does not have salt in it. So it's important to look at the ingredients because a lot of ingredients have added salt, and I just don't like food to be salty. So you have to pay attention to that, especially if you are, if you have high blood pressure or if you have health issues that would mean you need to use less salt. So usually I'll either use tomato sauce. I can use tomato paste. If you use tomato paste, you're gonna need to add a little water. So you wanna just make sure this is cooked down. Before you add the seasoning, you want the meat to cook. So. This smells delicious. I wish we were in person, Kaiti, in the library. So how are you guys making out with having to be home mostly? Anybody going a little stir crazy?
Cooking a lot.
Yeah, me too. The COVID 15 pounds. So yeah. COVID 15, yeah. Anybody put their address in the chat bar who wants some empanadas delivered?
Not yet.
Not Barbara, I could walk over to you. That's easy.
You know where to find me too.
Okay, so back here we have. So I'm gonna make the bean as that chicken. So the chicken, I'm sorry, the beef. You want to wait until the water in it, dries up before you start adding the seasoning in. Usually I put the heat up a bit so that it'll dry some of that up, and I'll turn everything else down. So now we want to put in some of the tomato paste. Usually I start with like one pretty heaping teaspoonful. I'm gonna put it into this is where I'm gonna make the black bean with, just add a little water to it. Because you're gonna, in essence, you're making your own tomato sauce. So in terms of measurements, the water, you just want it to, you want the consistency to be that of like a tomato sauce. So if it's too thick, you add a little extra water like I would do here. If it's too thin, you add a little more tomato paste. You kind of want to gauge that. So I think that this here is pretty dry up. See, no more liquid. Then you can turn it down now and season it. So I'm going to use my homemade adobo, which I said again has salt, garlic, turmeric, pepper, and oregano. So this is all kind of by eye. We don't, I would say probably a teaspoon of most things and then a dash of the garlic powder. Remember, we put garlic powder in there, so you don't need a lot. So one of the things that you want to do now is put the sofrito in. So I usually, for the meat, I'll add 2 because it's a little more there than the other ingredients. So 2, you want to put some of that meat over it so it'll melt. Sometimes I'll just take it out a little before I'm going to cook so it'll melt down a bit. But in this case, I didn't. You can just put it right, put the meat over it like a little mountain and it will melt quickly. Okay, so now for the black beans, I'm going to throw in the butternut squash and corn that I roasted in advance. Then I'll throw in the beans. I could find them. So this is going to be probably around half a cup. Let's see here. Maybe like more like 3/4 of a cup. You can just take a look at it by eye. Look for something to cook that up with. So just so you can kind of take a look at the veggie one. It has some beans, corn, all those nice veggies, onions, and so this is just very healthy for you. There. Okay, so that's cooking down. While that's cooking down, you can just take on the side right here. Just go ahead and add the tomato paste and some water. So you're going to create your own tomato sauce again. Okay, now, so for this meat, you can see it's kind of like, you can add a little more there because it will cook down and it'll thicken as it cooks down. So again, this is very forgiving. You can take away any of the ingredients, add. I think that the most important ingredient to me are the fresh herbs and spices and the onions, the garlic, the peppers. That's what makes the food flavorful. So there is one other thing, just find that. Which I think I did mention it in the ingredients. We use the olive salads, the salad olives in the meat, especially because it just adds a lot of flavor. So if you take out some of the olives, and it's like it comes in the vinegar, you just throw a few in, like a teaspoonful in there, and break up the olives some. Gives a lot of good flavor also. And just cook that down a bit. Any questions so far? So now the beans and the butternut squash, that's all cooked because I already cooked everything in advance. So just really putting it together, I can shut that off and focus on the meat.
Did you add spices to the tomato and beans and squash and corn?
I did. I added, well, actually, or did I? Let me just taste it. Good question. Actually, I didn't, but it tastes pretty good. So I think for that, I would only add a little salt and pepper.
Pepper, thank you.
Of course, I would encourage you to use sea salt or Himalayan salt, which is much better for you. Actually, we'll use sea salt. It's the pink sea salt. I'll just add like a little grind there. And a little bit of the black pepper. But it really was very flavorful. It didn't need a lot. If you like spice, I use cayenne pepper, and as you can tell, I use it a lot. So cayenne pepper is also very good for you. So you can use some cayenne pepper. You like that? And of course, you want to taste it. You want the food to be, you want for it not to taste salty, because when you fry it and you put it in the pastry, it does come out, you taste a little bit more salt. So you want to undersalt more than oversalt. So you see that the meat has a nice consistency with the flavors. You guys see that? Okay, so now I can throw in the shrimp because the shrimp takes no time to cook. I'll just dump that in there. And again, we're going to do the same thing with the shrimp. As the shrimp is cooking, we want to put in the tomato paste. Large teaspoonful. So it's just good to have things that are right handy by you. Before you start cooking, think about all the things that you need. So I usually, if I know I'm going to need water, I'll just have water readily available so that I don't have to keep going and finding either bottled water or water from the sink, depending on how you do that. So we'll let that cook down a bit. Down here. And then you want all of this, the protein to be cooked first before you start working with the dough, because you want the protein to cool down before you put it in. So there you have that. Let this cook down a bit. And now the shrimp I had already seasoned in advance. So the trick also with Grace's question, do you recommend doing all of this at once? You have to keep in mind, will you forget that you seasoned something or not and over season it because you thought you didn't and you add. So there's a lot of moving pieces when you're doing
I see your point.
this.
I see your point.
So you have to think about that. Yeah. So I'll let that cook down a bit. And has anybody here ever made empanadas before?
No,
Nobody? Okay.
no.
So first, I like
No.
So this is how, this is in Puerto Rico, this is how we taste our food. we put it in the palm of our hand and we taste it that way. So here we go. So I think that's good. So now we just let the shrimp cook, and that's going to take a few seconds. So what I'd like to do is take this out of, take the meat that you're cooking away from the stove so that it will cool faster. Looking for my, here we go. Take it off the fire. Yeah. Now all of your ingredients that you've been using to cook, you can put away. You don't need the seasonings any longer. Finishing up the shrimp. Now the shrimp you can either put in whole or you can cut them up if you want them to be smaller pieces when you're biting in. Doesn't matter. It's just a matter of preference. So let me show you what the shrimp looks like. Okay. That's yummy. And again, you don't have to worry about making sure that the shrimp is exactly right, because remember, all of this is going to be fried, lightly fried. So I'm going to put my sofrito away. And while we let this cool, why don't I show you how to make the sofrito? Would you guys like to see how that's made, or want me to
Yes.
move on?
Yes, I would like to see that.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to make a small batch. So back to the ingredients, we need, I'm going to use my bullet instead because I'm going to make a smaller portion. So I typically use my it's similar to a Vitamix, but it's not actually a Vitamix. It's called the Blendtec. Show you. I love the Blendtec. For those of you who don't have like a high-speed, really good blender, the Blendtec is really good. It's similar to the Vitamix if you don't have a blender, because you can make soup in it. You can even make ice cream. There's just a lot of things you can do with it. So for those of you who are into that stuff, Blendtec is good. I use my NutriBullet. I've had the same one for I think 10 years now. It's good, works well for me. I typically don't use it to make sofrito, because when I make my sofrito, I like for the ingredients to be somewhat whole. I don't want them to be soupy. So I'm very mindful of that. But we can make a small batch in there. Show you how to do that. So you want to put in your peppers, whatever peppers you have. And again, sofrito is not like an exact science. We typically put one of everything. So if you use one medium to large onion, you're going to use one green pepper, maybe one red pepper. I'm going to use the rest of this onion. Onion. I'll chop it up again, making sure I use my food scraper. So I don't have to worry about garbage everywhere. The only thing to be very mindful of is when you use the food scraper, the little tags, the little stickers that they put on the vegetables and the fruit, you want to take those off because those are not recyclable. Okay, so the onions, you want to make sure you have onions in your sofrito. It adds the water that you're going to need. And then I had some extra garlic that I peeled earlier. And I'll use the red pepper. And you always need cilantro. So for the cilantro, there are a lot of nutrients in the root of the cilantro, so I love to use that. So I throw that in there. Now, sometimes you might need to add a little bit of water, but most times you don't. You want to get started and then see what you're going to need. I think I might need some water here, but let's see. Add a little water to that. And I mean, just like a little, not really not a lot at all, just to get it going. And the reason why I'm not doing it in the bigger blenders because I'm not using a lot of ingredients, so it'll be a little tough. So here we go. So it's really, really fast. I didn't use all of the cilantro, so I will throw the rest in there. Smells delicious. I wish you could smell that. And then this is a good time if you have any little scraps of peppers that you only use half or half an onion that you use to just throw them in there so you don't throw anything out. I found another little scrap of onion that I use for something else. So I will throw that in there so it doesn't go to waste. I see that some of it is beginning to spoil here. So I'll just cut that out and use the rest. I was taught not to waste, so it just bothers me to see anything go to waste. So there you go. You see how fast I did it? So that there's still some intact. And you can see some of the ingredients still. It's like chunky. It's not what, it's not too soupy. So then you get a little cheap. I use specific ones just for the sofrito. You don't want to use the same ice cube trays you use for your ice. Your ice will taste like sofrito. I learned that the hard way. So you just get a spoonful. So sometimes I'll use my like my either ice cream scoop or a cookie scoop, and I'll just so that they're all basically the same size, and just put them right in. Isn't that cool? Neat trick.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
Have it. So when you're cooking during the week, you know, it helps you save money because you start to enjoy cooking and eating out less. There you go. And it also promotes, you know, healthier eating. So there you go. I put this in the freezer. All righty. So there you have it. So now two things. For the meat, you can do meat. We like to have some cheese with it. So I took the liberty of grating some mozzarella cheese to put in. You could have some with meat, some with cheese, some without. If you are vegan, you can use tofu as your protein. If you're vegan, you can't use mozzarella, you can use the vegan cheese. There's just so many options that you can do. So now what you have to do is set up your space for And just so you see here, these scallions, I love scallions in everything. They're so delicious to me. But just so you know, whenever I have run down to the bottom, I will just put the scallions in water. Just put them like in a mason jar in water, and you will continue to grow scallions. So keep that little trick in mind. But the
Do
scallions,
that, it's wonderful.
it is wonderful, isn't it? And I love scallions with everything, with my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So these scallions and the cheese, I will put in at the end once we're about to wrap the dough. So let's make a few of those. So you want to make sure that your counter is clean if you're going to use your counter. Some people want to use like a cutting board. I like the counter because it's just it's smooth, it's easy to work on, and it makes it a little easier. So the first thing you want to do with the counter is make sure that there's some flour on it, because you don't want the dough to stick. And the other thing that you want to make sure you have is a fork and a little bowl with water for when you are going to seal the empanada, which is important. And I learned that the hard way too when I first made them, because they opened up because I had not sealed them. Let me get a fork here. So a fork and that. And so if you buy the empanadas and they're frozen, if you're going to use them right away, put them in the fridge until you're about 2 hours before you're going to use them, because you really want them to be at room temperature. You want the dough to be pliable. You want to be able to stretch it out. You want it to stretch somehow. So you want to make sure that it's at room temperature. The other thing is that it comes with these little handy square plastic that you're going to use so that when you make the empanadas, you're going to put them down here and you're going to line them up. That way they don't stick. That's just a little trick that I learned along the way. So let's get started with this. You want to make sure everything here has. So you want to make sure that you are stretching out the dough some. So you kind of play with it a little. You know, the first or second may not be perfect, but you want to just stretch them out a bit, because you want it to be thin. They're already kind of thin, but you want them to be thin because then they're flakier and they hold less grease, and it's just better. So there you have, just open one up. It doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes they kind of break on the sides. It's fine. Do that. And so let's do a beef one. So what you want to do is you want to put it toward one end, because when you fold it over, you don't want to have it bunch up in the middle. So you put it toward one end, and you want to be careful not to put too much. This is about a little more than a tablespoon full. And then you want to use the water to seal it. So just be mindful that you don't want the water to fall on the counter, because then you're going to have a lot of dough that's wet. That's not fun. So you want to really be mindful to put it right over the edge of the dough that you're working with. And that way it's going to act as the glue that's going to seal it. And you want to press down there. So you press down. You can make sure that it's nice and sealed. And then you use the brush, the fork, to seal it. And maybe another day I'll show you how to make the dough for this, which is also really tasty when you make it yourself. But these the store-bought ones they're really good too. So there's your first one. Easy, right?
Very nice.
So we'll do another one with, and again, I keep the plastic and I put it right above right on top of the previous one so that when I line them up, they're not touching each other and they're not sticking. So now the other ones I'm gonna make, do the same thing. You wanna work with it. If it feels cold to the touch, you could even throw it into the microwave for like 5 seconds at a time. Make sure you have a cover. So I don't know if you have, you know, like a microwave cover if when you're heating up your food. Put the cover on and heat it up for about 5 seconds. It makes it really soft and it's easier to manage it. So we'll do that. Let's do a shrimp one. And I probably would cut the shrimp in half. I don't like big chunks. So I'll put a few of the shrimp there. Put some of the sauce. Oops. Bless you. Somebody sneezed. Let's seal that one up.
Don't forget to put your address on the chat box if you want delivered.
Seal that one up. Now I have to be honest, my favorite, only because I grew up eating them, are the beef. I also do make them with like codfish, salted codfish. We've used corned beef. And also I've made it with sweet stuff. You can make like apple pie filling, put some apple pie filling in it and bake it or fry it. There's just a lot of ways you could use this. You can even use like the croissant dough and just cut it into circles and use the croissant dough. It's very easy to make a lot of different things with it. And we'll do, if it starts to stick a little, just add a little extra flour. Now, if you feel like you mess up one or two, don't get discouraged and think, you know, I can't do this. It took me a while to sort of start to get the feel for it. If you're someone who makes like apple pies and bakes, this might be something that you'll feel familiar with. Do some of the black bean and black bean butternut squash. I have never tried this before. This is my first time doing it that way. I just figured why not? And I think I'll even add a little cheese to that one. Anybody getting hungry?
Yes, definitely.
Heidi, do you need some?
I can't. I just had my lunch.
So I just squeeze those in together. So was this helpful for you guys? Did you guys enjoy this?
Yes, very helpful.
Sometimes it's different than just seeing a recipe. It's like actually seeing it done helps.
Yes.
And so there's the black bean one. And why don't I make one more with the beef and cheese, which is my personal favorite. And I would just encourage, if you buy the cheese, to avoid buying the cheese that's already grated, because they have to add a lot of preservatives to keep the cheese from sticking. So buy the whole block of cheese instead and grate it yourself, which is what I did today. More than I normally put in, but that's okay. I'm also going to put in a few green onions, which I love, and a little cheese. And this will be good. Just always want to remember to seal it. So they're just a lot of steps to remember. It's not difficult to make. It's just you want to remember the different steps that you need to do. Can you okay. You got those messages, Kaiti? Somebody asked for the recipe to be resent. You may also contact me at Andino at Tuckahoe-ny.com. If you ever have questions, if you want me to come cook with you, I do enjoy that. And you might think I won't come, and I'll show up to your house. And we'll cook together.
Omayra, I think someone asked to send the recipes. I have the list of ingredients, but I don't have the recipes.
Okay, so we can do that.
Yeah.
You can also send them the recording, but I will send the
Yeah.
recipe to you.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna make the rest of them unless anybody want me to make another one just so you could see.
And also, Mara, there's another question I've missed earlier. Someone asked, can you use canned or frozen corn or roasted?
Absolutely. Don't use canned. If you're gonna roast your own, use frozen. Frozen is better, but frozen with nothing. You know, you don't want to get the ones that have like sauces and stuff like that on it.
I see.
Yeah.
And
So that's it.
Where did
So
you,
now we're gonna fry them before we go.
where did
Somebody
you
asked,
get that cute bracelet garlic processor?
oh, I bought that on Williams Sonoma.
Oh, I
website?
thought so. Okay,
Yeah,
thank
that's
you.
where I got that one. So now let's just really quickly fry some of them so you can see what they look like. So I'm gonna fry 3 in 1 so you can get a pretty big size. If you're going to do a smaller amount, like usually I made some earlier. I used a smaller pan. That way you don't have to use a lot of oil. So I used a smaller one. So it all depends on how many. I'm gonna make a big one. You don't want it to be full. This is not deep frying. I'll show you. I just happen to have canola oil. You can use vegetable oil, corn oil. I usually tend to stick with canola oil, but you don't want to use anything like olive oil to cook this because it doesn't do well with high heat. So for this one, we're going to do 3. You want it to just cover the bottom of the pan. So it's not going, you're not going to fill it. Just want the bottom of the pan to be covered. Okay, I'm gonna put this here. We'll just put them in when we let that heat up. So I was thinking, do you guys want to rush off? Or would you like for me to show you how I make my, usually if I'm having something like this that's fried, I will make some berries with bourbon whipped cream or something like that. Would you guys like to see me make that? Or maybe
Yes,
another time.
yes.
Yeah,
Sure.
okay.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Yeah, it won't take that long. Let me show you my tricks, tips and tricks. So
Sounds like a very good combination. You invented
Yeah.
yourself?
it's really nice to make. Let me show you. Let's see here. Let's make. All right, so so for the whipping cream, it's very easy. You just need heavy whipping cream or any whipping cream. Just put it. Now, typically, I would have the bowl in the freezer so that it's very cold when you're making the whipping cream. And this is half a pint. I'll probably just put in like half of this. Put it back in the fridge. Okay, so I realized that I want to teach you guys a trick. I realized I forgot to pick up some confectioner's sugar, the powdered sugar. So we're gonna make our own. You can make your own confectioner's sugar. Let me show you how. So all you have to have is, so I usually don't even buy confectioner's sugar anymore because did you know that confectioner's sugar also has cornstarch in it? Anybody know that?
Yes, actually.
So I just want sugar. I don't want cornstarch in it. So I will just get my little handy mixer here. Let's see here, I'm looking at the oil to see how it's doing. Usually I'll test the oil by just putting a little piece of flour in it, see? If it doesn't rise, it's not ready, so that's not ready. Put this out of the way. Got a little dark there. Switch the light out. All right, so just put some sugar in. I'm just gonna do about a quarter cup. And you put it in any high, you need a high-speed mixer though, like a bullet. If you don't have a bullet, it's not gonna work as well, but if you see the sugar, it's just regular granulated sugar, you put it in there and now you'll see it just turned into powder sugar. You can really see it. You can. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Yes.
So there I have my powdered sugar. And now I can make the, okay, so now let me show you this. You can see that the dough is starting to rise now. So now we're gonna put in, so it's very important that you don't put in the empanadas too soon because it will be very oily. So you don't want that. I'm just gonna put them in. I'll put 3 in, 1 of each. Let you see them cooking. And they're very quick, so you want to watch them because if we could start timing, you'll see how quickly it cooks. It's like a minute, it's that long. Now, we're gonna turn them over in a minute. So in the meantime, we'll start whipping up this. So now I am usually pretty traditional. I'll make my whipped cream by hand with a whisk. But we don't have a lot of time. You just need any large whisk and you just start whisking. And your hand gets tired. And Julia Childs taught me you have to be strong to cook. So it takes a while. So in the
What's the differences you feel like use the machine and use by hand?
I think that you control the consistency of the whipped cream better.
Oh,
But when you're doing it this way, you have to pay real close attention because it can quickly go from whipped cream to butter.
oh, I see.
You make butter the same way. So, so you gotta watch it. So I'm just gonna add about a teaspoonful of the powdered sugar. And if you want, you can add bourbon. I'm not adding bourbon here. You want to start very slow because it starts to go all over the place if you go too fast. You just want to start whipping it. And you can start going a little faster as it starts to froth up. And just, I'm keeping an eye on the empanadas here. And stop it for a sec, check on the empanadas. Okay, don't want you to fall over. All right, down here. So now you want to turn them over so you can see them and bring you over here. You want them to be somewhat brown, but not too dark. On each side. Nice, see that? Go back to the, oops, spilled some. It's starting to thicken up now. And I think that's pretty good. You see the consistency? So it's like creamy, it's very creamy. I'm gonna take out the bananas now. Put them on the cookie. This is what they look like once they're done.
Wow.
Hold on. There's one more left here. I'm gonna put that one in.
Hold on, I'm gonna clap the empanadas, hold on. Beautiful, they're so beautiful. I'm gonna eat them.
So there you have that. And then with the whipped cream, let me show you the consistency. So it's just, I mean, instead of buying whipped cream, you can make it yourself. And it's very tasty. And so what I usually will do, I'll just get some strawberries and blueberries, whatever berries you find or whatever you have that you could use. Doesn't matter.
Your flame is still on under the oil.
Yeah, we have another one in there.
Okay,
Yeah, I have one more. Thank you, though.
just checking.
'Cause I wouldn't forget, I wouldn't put it past me to forget it. Yeah. So if I have some strawberries, show you here, which I've already washed. Maybe put a couple in there. Some blueberries, still a little wet. You want to kind of let them drain. I didn't have too much time to drain them out. Throw some of that in there. As much or as little as you want. And you have a nice fresh little dessert. There you have it. Some empanadas and some. So now I'm going to show you what they look like inside. So let me show you. I feel like I'm kind of teasing you guys, but this is like.
Don't do that, Omayra.
It's really delicious
Okay.
and sort of balances you
I
having
think after
empanada.
all that hard,
What did you say?
I said after all the hard cooking, hard work cooking and all this preparation, you need the dessert.
Yes, I do.
I know.
Are there any questions?
Let me check.
Hold on.
Sorry, I was a little late. I have a question. Where did you buy that dough? Is that
I bought the dough. I think I bought the dough. I may have bought it at Stop and Shop.
okay?
Yeah, I think I bought it at Stop and Shop. But let me just show you. Let's just look at some of these empanadas. So you can see what they look like inside once they're cooked. Then I have to figure out. I like it now. So this is the beef one,
Hmm.
right? And let's see, this one is this is the shrimp one.
Wow, look at the smoke.
Yeah. And then you have, I believe this is the black bean. Yep, black bean with butternut squash and cheese.
Oh, that one,
Corn,
very nice.
really delicious. That's the veggie one.
Yeah,
And there you have it.
wow. Thank you so
Awesome.
much,
Three ways.
Omayra. Oh my God.
Thank you so much. Wow, it's
I
so
hope you guys
Thank
enjoyed
you.
that.
I can't wait to make it myself.
So if you have any questions, I actually will put my number in the chat bar. While you're making them, you're welcome to call me. I've been known to get random calls from people and say, do I add this first or that first? And I will.
said you are always ready to answer.
I am.
I know.
Thank you so much. It looks so yummy. I wish I could eat it right now.
Delivery, you can put on the chat box for delivery.
If you live in Tuckahoe, send me
If
your
I live
address.
Yes.
So I'm gonna bring this plate over to Barbara Maxey, who lives in my building. She lucked out.
Aw.
No shrimp.
No shrimp.
I see we do
shellfish.
have a request for delivery.
Tell me.
I will text you later.
Text me the address because I need to finish them up and get them out of my house. Otherwise, I'll eat them all.
Okay. I will text you right now.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.